Heard of it? You're not alone. It's a rather new administrative group that started under Portland's new form of government, and it manages core bureaus like human resources, technology services, the city's budget office, and city-owned vehicles. Think of it like an internal operational engine for the roughly 7,500 city workers. Well, apparently, that engine needs a tune-up. This city audit released this week found city operations spent $650,000 general fund dollars over the course of a year hiring outside contractors as temporary staff to help address a large backlog of required updates in the city's time and payroll system, impacting city operations, union contracts, and paid leave programs. And that those temp workers, the city admitted, did not have the expertise needed to complete the job. So the audit says those taxpayer dollars were essentially wasted. Investigators also found that the work the contractors were hired to do was delayed by a year because their contract ended without the work being fully completed, meaning the backlog continued to grow. City operations claims that there was no money wasted, but the city auditor found evidence to suggest otherwise. Here's part of my conversation with Casey Jones, Portland's Audit Services Director. So how does the city end up spending $650,000 on contractors who ultimately don't have the expertise to do the work that they were hired to do?
Sure. So the efficiency and waste that we found is a result of poor planning and poor coordination. So the contract that the city entered into did not have a statement of work that would have defined performance requirements for what the contractors were supposed to do. And it didn't set clear expectations.
Is it fair to say this wasn't simply a case of a contractor unexpectedly underperforming, but that the city failed to establish whether the contractor was capable of doing the work before hiring them?
Sure. I think the city was feeling like they needed to address the backlog quickly and rushed into this without doing the proper planning.
The audit characterized the entire $650,000 as wasted general fund dollars. So what
Yes.
exactly did taxpayers get for that money?
So they got nothing.
What does this audit tell you about how departments within the city are communicating before contracts are signed?
That communication is poor. I think the fundamental issue around the need for system access and that kind of being fundamental to this work was a huge inefficiency that we found. The city says in their response that this was a learning experience.
So the audit specifically calls out the city's budget challenges. How
Yeah.
concerning is it to find $650,000 in avoidable spending at a time when the city is cutting services and facing major general fund shortfalls?
Yeah, so the it's concerning because the issues that we found are fundamental best practices.
How confident are you that this kind of waste isn't happening elsewhere in the city?
Um, we we don't review every contract. We took a tip on this through our fraud hotline.
Okay, yeah, you don't sound all that confident that this isn't happening elsewhere.
I can't say.
Okay, worth noting here that these temp workers didn't solve the city's payroll backlog problem. So guess what? The city ended up spending an additional $600,000 on new outside contractors from a different vendor. The project was reported complete this past January, 1 year, and hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars passed the original deadline. The city auditor's office gave the city recommendations for how to prevent this from happening in the future, and they will check back in with the bureaus involved in about a year. But a spokesperson for the city operations office tells us they agree with the audit recommendations, adding, "We acknowledge that the project did not initially achieve the intended results. We continue implementing the auditor's recommended improvements so future contracts have clearer expectations."